What's up guys, and welcome to my guide on who you should be preparing for the upcoming Fate characters. The way this video is going to work is I'm going to be talking about multiple characters in different sections. As you can see, there are timestamps on the video. First, I'll be going over characters that are good with both. Then I'll be talking about the ones that are better with Saber, and then ones after that are better with Archer. And with that being said, let's dive straight in. I want to have a massive disclaimer here that some of the characters that I do mention that are better with someone like Saber still can work with someone like Archer, and also vice versa with different setups. I am only going to be talking about them there because it is significantly a better option to run them there as opposed to running them over someone else that I already mentioned in the previous one. So just because I don't mention a character for both doesn't mean it technically can't work for both. It's just because that character is going to be significantly better for the one I do mention rather than both. Now, when we are taking a look at characters that are good with both, the first one I want to talk about is Tribi. This comes as no shocker as Tribi is the universal god support right now. She provides great buffs such as all-type res pen, making enemy takes more damage, doing additional quantum damage in her zone, and also serving as a sub DPS to wiggle down enemies even further. She also has one of the most common E1s in the game, which will enable true damage, which can significantly impact the damage output that either your Archer or Saber are doing. So not only is she going to significantly amplify the damage that they can do, she herself is also going to be doing really good damage, which, as I mentioned, will further wiggle down enemies on the side that potentially may be living with a slither of HP, help you kill bosses faster, and so on. So the multitude of buffs she does provide, being completely universal, is also very beneficial to these Fate characters, and is definitely a teammate you can consider. Another character that works fantastic with both is going to be Robin. Both Archer and Saber are attack scaling characters. They both benefit from Robin's skill giving damage dealt. Her ultimate giving everyone another action on the team is going to significantly impact their overall damage they can do. It is a bit tricky with Archer specifically because you might run into a rotation where you consume a little too many skill points, so you definitely want to play smart there. But in short, you still can significantly amplify the damage output you can do with her. Again, her skill provides a great damage dealt increase. Her ultimate gives everyone another action, which is going to further amplify the damage output you do. She's also able to give a bit of crit damage, and for Archer specifically, she does buff crit damage dealt from follow-up attacks even further, so that's a bit of extra damage you can get there. And in her ultimate, she is amplifying everyone's attack by a lot. As again, both of them are a big attack scaler, that is going to be very, very good. And the last one I want to talk about is going to be Ruan Mei. Just like the other two, both Saber and Archer benefit a ton from Ruan Mei's buffs. The weakness break efficiency can definitely help to break enemies so you can get attacked less, and on top of that, providing a very, very big overall damage increase with their skill as well. Ultimate being able to provide all-type res pen, and also being able to increase speed thanks to her talent, which is going to be very beneficial, especially if you're not hitting thresholds on something like a hyperspeed character with Archer and so on. With Archer himself, you're usually always building him base speed, so unfortunately for him specifically, it's not going to be too beneficial, but it can help you hit even more thresholds with other characters and debuffers, so that speed buff is still very, very nice even on Archer's teams. And with the whole ability to re-break enemies in sustainless runs especially is very, very good. Just because the longer they are broken, that means the less you will be attacked, and the less likely you would be to take too much damage and die. So the re-breaking and being able to re-break those enemies is very, very, very valuable. On top of that, she was also practically given out for free, and a lot of people do have access to her E1, which does provide defense ignore, which is insanely powerful for both Saber and Archer. Now, I also do want to mention these debuffers, primarily Silverwolf and Cypher, but Pela can also get a mention as she does work. With a debuffer, you primarily will be taking them on Archer's teams. Archer's best teams usually have a combination of Silverwolf plus Cypher, or just one or the other, and overall are usually a must-have on the team. Less so Saber. She usually has a double support with the sustain or triple support if sustainless, but with Archer specifically, you usually always are going to be taking a debuffer, usually in the form of Cypher or Silverwolf or both. Silverwolf's buffs is very good. You can guarantee the implant of weakness, which is exceptionally good with someone like Archer, because now guaranteed quantum weakness can mean you can get the full genius set effect always. Her AoE defense shit is also super good for both of them. For Archer, means it's going to be able to help you switch enemies and do more damage still. For Saber, she is fully AoE, so that's also great. It's also very easy to have all uptime on her with a bunch of setups to have 2 turn all, 1 turn all, and so on. Cypher herself just makes enemies take more damage by existing. She also does provide a lot of personal damage, especially with a built up tally to unleash a lot of damage with her ultimate. And so that's the advantage she would have over Silverwolf. And if you have a light cone on her specifically, that's more defense shred, but you can also put Cypher's light cone on someone like Pela or Silverwolf. And when we are talking about Pela, she is the weakest option out of the three, but her defense shred is still very, very good. And that really is the only reason. Again, someone like Archer is very saturated with buffs already, especially with his best teammates. So taking a debuffer is really good, so if you don't have someone like Cypher or Silverwolf, running Pela is still very, very potent. Now getting more into character specific ones, first off I'm going to talk about Saber. So some of Saber's best teammates, the first one I'm going to talk about is Sunday. Sunday is absolutely fantastic for Saber, especially enabling the -1 setup, which is going to be her strongest way to be played, as -1 setup will equate to more turns. More turns means more output, 2 meaning more damage, and on top of that you can get more energy off it, helping you spam ult more. On top of that, his ultimate buff with crit damage and also energy especially is super good. And the crit rate he helps can also help you build even more crit damage and attack percent and focus on speed and such rather than just focusing on crit rate. Saber already gives herself 20%, but with Sunday it's an additional 20%, giving you up to a 40% just by those two. Meaning you only really need 60% outside of battle, because in battle you get the 20% and also the additional 20% from Sunday. Sunday's buff from the damage dealt, again the turn it gives for the -1 setup especially, the energy from the ult and the crit damage, the crit rate, and everything he does do, also having a dispel debuff if you are CC'd. Everything he provides is just absolutely perfect for Saber and is going to be one of her best teammates. A substitute for Sunday would be Bronya. Bronya also does enable the -1 setup as she also does give a full turn. Just with her it's a bit harder as you do consume more skill points. Bronya also does have a really nice gimmick you do have with their E2 where you're able to buff the person you do buff with skill and also additionally buff their speed with E2 by an additional amount of 30%, so this allows attack percent boots setups. It also allows hyperspeed setups. By that I mean running attack percent boots, so having about 135 speed on your Saber with attack percent boots. By that I mean running attack boots on your Saber and having roughly about 105 speed on her. Having Bronya at 134, having the skill go on Saber, and now you have a -1 setup. The hyperspeed setup would be still having your Saber with speed boots and having her at around 135 speed, building your Bronya to be about 161 speed, and then you would make your Saber go up to around 165 speed and having overall a -1 speed build there as well. So her E2 is definitely a perk. Again, her real only downside is going to be the fact that she can't really spam skill too much unless you have someone on the team generating skill points, because Saber also wants to spam. There will be times where you do use her enhanced basic attack quite frequently as well, so it's not too bad, but you still want to look out for that. Her buffs are really good as well. Damage dealt, gives attack percent and also crit damage. Overall, worse than Sunday, especially because she can't provide any energy, which is really good for Saber, but is still very strong. Remembrance Trailblazer is also going to be really good for Saber, as Saber is able to hit multiple times with everything she does have, especially her ultimate. So with the way that Remembrance Trailblazer's true damage does work, it is every instance, so the more instances you have is making it overall nicer. And the crit damage buff is still very nice, plus RMC also can actually give some crit rate thanks to the Eidolons. So the crit damage buff with some extra crit rate and also that full turn you can get when it's Mem's buff can also significantly increase the output. Plus again, true damage in this game is absolutely insane, and this is the only other real source of support of true damage. So outside of having Tribi, RMC would be a great substitute for that as well, as the buffs that RMC provides is really good, especially the true damage. Ting Yun is also really good for Saber. Attack percent is going to be really nice on her, but it is primarily for the setups you can do with something like DDD, and also mainly for the fact that you can give Saber a bunch of energy with Ting Yun's ultimate. Ting Yun's also able to really go into these end game battles and have ultimate right off the bat as well. So you're able to do setups with DDD really quickly, and even if you're not, the energy buff and the attack percent buff you can give to Saber is extremely good, as more energy will allow you to spam ult even more. And then for the one sustain I'm going to talk about that does excel over the others is going to be Huohuo. Huohuo still does heal a lot and also does have a cleanse, so she does still function fine in the current meta, but it is mainly for the fact that her ultimate does turn her into a budget harmony character. Her ultimate gives everyone on the team 20% of their max energy and also buffs everyone's attack by 40%. The 40% attack is going to be great for Saber, and the energy is exceptionally good. That buff is the reason she does get put higher priority as the sustain for these teams, but with sustain slots, you usually just use whatever you have that is the best. So I'm only really going to mention what is best here, and in this case for Saber, it is Huohuo. As again, the energy is exceptionally good, and the attack percent buff is also very nice. And since it's for everyone on the team, it can help you get Robin ult back faster, it can help you refresh Tribi if you're using her, help you get Sunday ult quicker. It helps you get anyone ults quicker, especially Saber herself, with her big ultimate requirement. So not only is she buffing Saber, she's buffing your team and also helping them get their ult back faster as well, which is why she does excel as the sustain on this team specifically. Now we are going to be talking about Archer specifically. Archer unfortunately has a lot stricter requirements due to the way he does work, but the absolute best far and none teammate you can have that's going to be a bigger buff compared to anyone else is Sparkle. The variety of buff Sparkle does provide is nice for him. She does give a bit of damage dealt, she amplifies the living hell out of his crit damage, she also does provide some attack percent, and since Archer is Quantum, you can get the second part of that Quantum bonus trace giving even more attack percent. So you have Sparkle herself, you have Archer, so you're able to get 2 out of 3, and if you have a third one, then it becomes even stronger. But the reason she is the best is also because of the sheer amount of skill points she does give that is front loaded, and also the ability to overcap even further. With a E0 S0 Archer and a E0 S0 Sparkle, you have a total of 9 skill point cap. Archer, the way he works is you spam a skill and each skill shot does use 2 SP, making him the most skill point hungry character in the game. Sparkle is the best character that can offset that as she provides the most front-loaded skill points in the game. Sunday does provide a little more throughout the battle, but Sparkle provides a lot more front-loaded, which is what Archer does want. Archer is also preferring to always be built at base speed with attack percent boots, which makes the whole Sparkle playstyle very, very good, as the way you wanted to always have Sparkle optimally was running her at hyper speed, so 160.1 speed or higher, and having the DPS you are buffing at base speed, which Archer is going to be doing. So the buff she provides being really good, being able to give Archer a full turn to attack pretty much, and also being able to give a bunch of skill points for Archer to spam and absolutely delete the enemies you are attacking, is overall why she is just the far and on best option to use. The skill points is very, very important. Unfortunately, if you do not have Sparkle, you're going to see a big drop off, and the substitute for that is going to be Hanya. Hanya is able to apply burden to the enemy you do choose, and every 2 basic attack skill or ultimates that do hit that enemy will recover a skill point, and after 2 times it will be dispelled. So that is really the only source of skill point regeneration you would have as a substitute for Sparkle. Her ultimate increases speed, which again, Archer isn't really built with speed, so that's not really too helpful, but does also provide a big 60% increase to attack. So that will also at least amplify his damage. So Hanya, the goal is going to be built really fast so you can constantly refresh this actual burden debuff on the enemy, just so you could bring back as much skill points as possible. She does not provide nearly as many skill points as someone like Sparkle, unfortunately, but if you don't have Sparkle, that is going to be your next best option. Usually for the third slot, you would be using someone I mentioned in the both category. Again, this slot would usually go to someone like Silverwolf. This would usually go to someone like Cypher. Usually a debuffer, at least one is going to be very much preferred to run with Archer. So the team would usually be Archer, Sparkle, or Hanya. Or even Sunday. Sunday does work. Not as well, but still does work. Third slot would be the debuffer, primarily Silverwolf or Cypher, but Pela does also work. Not as strong. It's going to be a pretty big drop off, but still does work. And the last slot would very much depend if you're doing sustainless or a sustained run. Sustainless, Archer is very, very strong. In that last slot, you would sub in the other debuffer. So again, if you're running Silverwolf, you can put in Cypher or Pela, whatever you're doing, or vice versa. Or you can throw on another support such as Tribi. Tribi, especially with her E1, is insane for Archer's damage. Robin is really good with him. Again, Ruan Mei, especially with the E1, is very good. But if you are doing a sustain, the best character you can do for a sustain for him is going to be a very fast SP genning Gallagher. Gallagher with a very high speed build with a light cone that can give him even more speed or multiplication for more turns is going to be the absolute best thing you can do, as it's going to provide even more skill points for your Archer to burn. So the goal for your sustain is always going to be as fast as possible to generate more skill points for your Archer to use. It becomes even more important if you're not running Sparkle and you're using Hanya, as you won't be able to get as many skill points back. So the sustain part, being able to generate a bunch of skill points, is going to be very important. You aren't strictly limited to Gallagher though. You can very much build a very fast Linksha, you can very much build a very fast Luocha. Those two are also very skill point positive characters that can spam their basic attack to generate and also be built really fast while sustaining very well. Gallagher is just the best option to generate those skill points, so that's why he's the most recommended, but again, those other healers do work. And that does wrap up the teammates you do want to prepare for these fake characters. Took you over multiple, a universal category for both, and also the debuffers, how it works for both, but especially Archer, the characters best to use with Saber, and then the characters that are best to use with Archer. Unfortunately, Archer again is a lot more restrictive, as Saber doesn't really have that super skill point hungry requirement, but he still does have ways to get around it. If you guys did find this video helpful, dropping a like would be greatly appreciated. If you're new to the channel or haven't done so already, be sure to subscribe and turn the bell icon for future videos like this, along with all other types of Star Wars content, and I'll see you later. Peace out.